O great powers of the world beyond, give this inanimate object life. Are due dambala, clatu barata nicto. Give me victory in this fight, and I call out your name, Winged Dragon of Ra! That was every nerdy cantation I know, and it didn't work. So I guess I have to find the soul fruit at some point there. I do not have a sun, and I used to have a little miniature Zeus. It was a bunch of cotton balls that I glued together on an old sock, but that thing fell apart like months ago. So we have a fire flower, and I don't have anything for Zeus, and I have a bicorn hat. All right, that's cool. But something else I do have is this authentic Lucy Christian signed Nami Pop Funko that my fan Eric sent me. That's right, Lucy Christian being the Funimation VA for Nami. So I have that up here. We have that today. That's cool. Many of you will also be questioning, hey, Tekking, how come you didn't try to animate Barry using the soul powers? Implying that Barry is an inanimate object that has no feelings and doesn't know everything that goes around him at any given time. Yeah, that's funny, right? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Big Mom's three homies. The homies, of course, the ones that are fragments of her own soul, because Big Mom has a lot more than just three homies. There's probably thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands when you consider all of Totland. Every single island in the entire archipelago has a crap ton of homies that, some of them are just very small, like little benches or barrels that have eyes and mouths. Even the flowers she can animate. The whole premise of Totland, remember, is that the people that live there have to pay sort of like a tax. Not a tax in terms of like heavenly tribute like the Tenryubito request or like berries or crops or anything. No, they have to pay with fragments of their soul. So I think like twice a year they have to surrender like a single month of their soul, of their life force to the the collectors that are like these giant black blobs that collect the soul energy, and it's with that soul energy that Big Mom takes and animates all of the homies together. Okay, so that's the whole premise of Totland. If you want to live there, you have to pay a price. Okay, now remember, by the way, I mean, aside from Big Mom's, sporadic hunger pangs, like, I want donuts! Katakuri's like, all right, man, it's my time to shine. Aside from that happening every few months or years or however often that goes, it's definitely more frequent than years. But aside from that, Totland was a relatively peaceful place to live. I mean, for the most part. I mean, the people living there didn't seem to complain all too much until, Big Mom goes on the aforementioned hunger pangs, right? So that's the situation with a lot of the regular homies, okay? However, you have three very special homies, Prometheus, Zeus, and Napoleon, that are fragments of Big Mom's own soul. She takes her soul and she creates them. Also, were probably the first homies that she really created. I know in the anime, after she receives Mother Caramel's powers, actually, no, this was in the manga too. Now, she creates some flower homies first. I remember that. That was in the manga. She creates some flower homies. That's how she first figured out, like, oh, wait, I have Mother Caramel's power. Weird. But later on, when she's still a child, we do see Zeus and Prometheus with her. She was wearing a sun hat at that point in her childhood, so maybe that was the Napoleon version 1. I'm not sure. We don't really get to see the hat in its entirety. Maybe the hat had a face. But it seems like, yeah, Zeus and Prometheus have been with Big Mom since she first started her campaign as a pirate. When she was first given her bounty at like the age of 8, she had a bounty of like 500 million, which is insane, right? So there's kind of some positives and negatives when you consider that the fact that these homies are made out of her own soul. So they're a lot stronger, for one, just their like constitution, okay? So for example, Brook comes in with his soul music, and so you have the chess soldiers that are all like animated objects. You take an animated giant like pawn or rook or bishop, animate them with other people's souls, and they're walking around like humbly bum bum bum, and Brook just with one strum of his mighty shark guitar, and then the reverberations of that soul energy, because they were like souls of other people animating inanimate objects, the souls immediately got blasted out of the chess soldiers with just one mighty riff. Brook tried the same thing against Zeus and Prometheus. Didn't work out too well because Big Mom's own soul was like the one that was the source of power there. So they're stronger in that respect. However, it does seem like there's some drawbacks here. Prometheus and Zeus and Napoleon seem to obey Big Mom, but they obey Big Mom sort of in the aspect of being very loyal servants of hers, rather than being like robots that she created with her soul power. Like, he's like, I created you, you shall obey every single command I give to you. a lot of the homies seem to have that where she gives them life, she gives them agency, okay? And if she gets very close to them and issues them a direct order, they obey without question, like the seducing woods. She creates all of the trees and the bushes and the flowers in the seducing woods, but they kind of adhere to King Bomb's orders when Big Mom's not around, okay? And they kind of do their own thing. And Nami was even able to manipulate them with a fragment of Big Mom's Vivre card, right? But when Big Mom got really close, like King Bomb was going through the seducing woods, and, you know, King Bomb is like, you know, part the ways, I'm going through, and the homies listened to him. However, when Big Mom arrived, and she's like, seducing woods, stop them! Like, issuing a direct order to her homies, that's when they start acting like automatons, essentially. And they was like, yes, Big Mom, we will obey your order without question. And then they all block out everything so that, you know, the Straw Hats couldn't get away, even including King Bomb. So that's the situation with most of the homies. They kind of do their own thing. Big Mom gives them life. She takes the soul of someone and gives them to, like, a rabbit like Randolph or a tree like King Bomb. The soul does not inherently receive the new body, the homie, does not receive the memories of the previous user of the soul, okay? It's like their own being when they get that soul, okay? Now, you see there's some vestiges of that whenever Pudding used her Memo no Mi. She used that flashback fill ability, and the memories kind of came to the surface, but that was only very brief. And then they, like, abated again, and they're like, oh, that was weird. I remembered I had to go pick up milk for some reason. Whatever. I'm a flower, I'm a flower, I'm a flower. I'm a flower. I'm gonna say, hold on, like my epic stacking skills. Yes, they're supreme. Okay, so that's the situation with most homies. Okay, when it comes to Zeus, Prometheus, and Napoleon, they hang around Big Mom, they listen to her commands, but then you get situations like with Zeus, where Zeus was drawn by Nami's weather balls that she created, and eventually led to Zeus basically obeying Nami rather than Big Mom. And so it's still kind of up for debate how this is exactly going to go, but from what we saw in the last chapter when Big Mom was chasing Nami and Carrot and Shinobu and Zeus all throughout the brothel, Black Maria's brothel, Zeus did not seem like an automaton. Zeus did not seem like, Big Mom is here and calling for me, therefore I must go and obey her every command, for I am her homie that came from her soul. Didn't seem like that. He seemed very, very afraid of Big Mom, like he was a child about to be, you know, like, scolded. Like, oh man, Nami, if Big Mom finds me, she's gonna be awfully sore. Can I stay with you? That he seemed a lot more afraid. Maybe if Big Mom got right up into Zeus's face, or actually touched him and issued a direct order, maybe Zeus would obey. Or, considering he is still the byproduct of the soul fruit, maybe, you know, Big Mom could suck out the soul part that she gave to Zeus and, like, incorporate it back into her own body. Kind of like in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Oh, I'm sorry. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, though! Where the homunculi are fragments of Father, and so he, like, can melt them down at any given time and return them to himself, and then he can make a new one later on if he so desires, like he did with Greed. Might be a situation with Big Mom where it's like, Zeus, you're acting rebellious, or you're leaving here, or I'll teach you to leave me, and then she just grabs Zeus and just rips out part of her soul and just, like, devours it, and just, like, her power gets an upgrade a little bit because she has that soul fragment back into herself, and then later on, she's like, later on, I'll create a new Zeus. You know, like, it could be something like that, and then Zeus just turns back into water vapor or a cloud or whatever he was originally, right? Could be a situation like that. Something else to maybe keep in mind, though, and the reason why her homies have a little bit more agency is because she is the user of the soul fruit, meaning that all the homies created have to obey her, except the ones with her own soul, because technically speaking, the homies that she creates with her own soul are also the users of the soul fruit, technically, because they're all part of the same soul, the same entity, right? Just given kind of different, like, different aspects of personality. Like, Zeus gets more of, like, Big Mom's gluttony. Prometheus definitely has a lot more of her rage, you know, because we've seen, you know, him get a lot, like, really angry and stuff. Napoleon is weird. Napoleon is the hat. Napoleon is weird for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, you have, alright, let's go through this really quick, okay? You get Zeus, the Thundercloud, or the Thunderhead, named after the father of Greek gods, hurling lightning bolts from Olympus on high. And then you get Prometheus, the titan that stole the fire from the gods and gave it to civilization. He was the dude, if you remember the Odin and Heracles video I did where I compared Odin's feats to all of Heracles' labors, Prometheus was the dude that during the golden apples of Hesperides, that one labor, I think it was the 11th labor, Prometheus was chained to a rock for stealing the god's fire and giving it to humans, and then like an eagle came down and like ate his liver every day, and then the liver regrew, and then that was just Prometheus's punishment. That was his existence. And then Heracles came along and then broke the chains. It's like, thank you, Heracles, for freeing me. And then he pointed him in the right direction to go to Atlas, who held up the sky to get the golden apples, right? So that's Prometheus, the titan, and then you have Zeus, who's a god, and then you get Napoleon, who is the guardian deity of France, I guess. I don't know much about Napoleon Bonaparte, really. I know about, you know, the Napoleonic Wars and the French Revolution and the French Empire that he kind of headed up. I know the basics about that stuff, but yeah, from the Hunter x Hunter video I did yesterday, apparently I really want to own the country of France, so I should know more about Napoleon. Or maybe he's named after Napoleon, not Napoleon Bonaparte, but Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah, maybe Big Mom just saw Napoleon Dynamite and was a really big fan and he animated the bicorn hat, okay? So, Napoleon is weird though. When Big Mom lost her memories on, in Wano after she conked her head and she washed ashore and Chopper and Kiku, everyone found her, Napoleon was like dormant, like sleeping. And we assumed the reason for that was like, okay, because Big Mom lost her memory, Napoleon became dormant because she doesn't know how to control her powers anymore. Later on, we find out that wasn't the reason. The reason Napoleon didn't do anything or say anything was because I'm really shy. You know, Big Mom lost her memories and I didn't know what was going on, and there were other weird people around, and there was a reindeer talking to me, and there was a giant crocodile, and we're in a prison, and there's a brachiosaur. I was way too swept up, man. I had no idea what was going on. I just thought, I'm gonna shut my eyes, pretend to be asleep, and wait until this plays out. You know, until Big Mom regains her senses, right? So, yeah, you know, you'd think at any given time Napoleon could have woken up and just been like, you are Charlotte Linlin, you are Big Mom, and that might have jogged her memory. You are a Yonko, but he didn't do that. So it's like they have different personality quirks depending on them, right? So yeah, something to keep in mind there. I'm thinking that Zeus, from what we've seen so far, is not just going to return to Big Mom willingly. The only option we have here is if Big Mom, like, removes the soul. But I kind of don't want that to happen. I kind of want Zeus to hang out with Nami for the rest of the story. I think that's a pretty good power-up for her, and you get a nice little companion, and it would be nice for Nami to ride on top of Zeus like Big Mom can, and we could see, you know, the effect of, like, the song Wukong Nami. That'd be pretty damn cool. I think that'd be working out for Nami with the extendable rod and everything. I was also throwing out another idea, and if you think about this, it makes sense. Zeus is a cloud. He devours, like, the little thunder balls, the weather balls that Nami makes that are, like, little static balls that, like, have electricity and water vapor and stuff in them, right? That's what Zeus loves, okay? Well, it's also been confirmed that Prometheus, being a giant sun, and the way that Big Mom created Prometheus was probably the same way that Mother Caramel created Pandora. When Mother Caramel was still alive at Elbaf, remember when there was that raging fire that was torching the entire city, or the town of Elbaf? She used her soul powers to create Pandora, coalescing all the fire together to create a little miniature happy sun. And that Pandora was Mother Caramel's little assistant, and, you know, she was there to, like, light Mother Caramel's cigarettes and stuff. Not the same homie as Prometheus. So probably Big Mom came across a really big raging fire someday, or maybe a volcano or something, and coalesced that into make a homie. So Pandora and Prometheus are different, right? But we know Prometheus likes to eat fire because giant fireball, giant sun. So would it not be possible, I'm just throwing it out there, would it not be possible for Nami to create heat balls, or like weather balls based around heat, which we know she can do, feed those to Prometheus, and then get Prometheus on the crew too? That might be a little bit too OP, but that'd be funny. I mean, it would be, I don't know how I'd feel about that in the long game, but that would be funny in the immediate instant of, like, Prometheus falling around Nami in the brothel and like, Mama, she's over here. Shut your gob, Prometheus. Shoves a heat orb in his mouth and just, oh, you stupid, what? Oh man, these are really good. Zeus, I kind of know what you're talking about now. Zeus is like, right? I know, they're delicious. That's how I think Zeus talks. I don't think that's how he talks in the anime, but I just like this. How you doing, Nami? Let's go and hang out and eat some of your weather balls. They're pretty delicious. Gee willikers. You know, and so Prometheus eats the heat orb and just ends up falling around Nami, and then you have two of Big Mom's homies in command of Nami. Nami in command of them. That'd be great. I don't know how she could coerce Napoleon over to her side, but yeah, that might be a little bit OP. I think just Zeus is fine, and you have a lot of applications with Zeus, with striking down the party where Orochi was and everything, and if Zeus allows her to ride on top of him. Sounded wrong, but that's an applicable power. Then Nami could straight up fly. That would be cool. How many Straw Hats can fly? Let's go down the list here. Okay, Luffy can fly. He can go into Gear 4th, and he can kind of use Geppo, kind of like thrusting his legs up and down and propulsion. That propulsion. Blah 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 blah. What's the propulsion? What's like? I'm thinking of like propel. That's it. Propel. I know words. Propel himself through the air. Zoro can't fly. Brook can sort of fly because he's super fly for one thing, but also he's very light, so you can kind of propel him through the air and he can kind of like glide. Maybe get some really baggy clothing with Brook and he can maybe do like a flying squirrel kind of deal. Maybe. Chopper cannot fly. He used to have jumping point, but he doesn't have that anymore. Sanji can fly. He's got Skywalk. Frankie's kind of too heavy to fly. Jinbei can't fly. Robin can kind of fly. Robin can use her wings, but her like 100 flowers, her Cien Fleur, and she can make wings to kind of float momentarily. So the only Straw Hats that can maintain flight over at least for more than just a couple of seconds, like Robin can like just float, is Luffy for as long as he has Gear 4th Bound Man active, and Sanji for pretty much as long as he wants. So Nami can fly. That'd be cool. That'd be okay, right? Okay, neat. Something else with Napoleon, whereas you have Zeus that's lightning-based abilities, Prometheus fire-based abilities, you have Napoleon that can turn into a sword, like multiple different kinds of swords too, not just one single kind of sword. So Big Mom takes off the hat, and the hat sort of becomes like the guard, and then a sword comes out of it, and then a hilt comes through the bottom, and she grabs onto it. And I'm not gonna pierce this hat, but she like swings the sword around. We've seen like a double-edged like long sword claymore. We've seen like a scimitar that she wields. There's a long sword called cognac, which is a type of brandy, I believe, but she makes that with extending the sword out, and then uses that to try to like slice the Sunny in half. So it's basically like a malleable kind of metal. I would even honestly be surprised if I don't even know how this works. I'm guessing Napoleon the hat is the homie, not the sword. But maybe like when she turned the hat into a homie, she's like, you pull a rabbit out of a hat. Maybe she took a sword and like shoved the sword into the hat, and it's like magical soul properties. So that's why Napoleon can turn into a sword. I guess I don't really get how that works really, unless she took the sword or just maybe a block of metal or something and then turned that into a homie and then molded it into the shape of a bicorn hat, and then it can just change forms whenever, like it's liquid metal or something. I don't know how this works exactly, but there's swords in the hat, and there's like the sword can change shape, okay, to whatever it sees fit. And the face for Napoleon is usually right here, like in the symbol of the Jolly Roger, but whenever it becomes a sword, like the scimitar or cognac, the face actually moves to the end of the blade and looks a lot more like evil. All of our homies have that kind of feel where it's like, here's Zeus just chilling out, and here's Zeus as like he's shrunk down after he discharged all of his electricity. He's just a scared little cloud. And then here's Zeus enraged, and then here's Prometheus just hanging out like a happy little son, and then oh my god, it's evil. Here's Napoleon just has a hat, and then Napoleon has a long sword. Yeah, pretty terrifying stuff. Okay, that's a neat aesthetic though with the homies. They give off a very relaxing kind of impression, like out of a fairy tale or like a storybook at first. Like, I'm just a happy little son until you enrage me, Last chapter, or the chapter before that, we saw Prometheus, see Nami in the brothel, and he was like going enraged, but he didn't actually attack her. Instead, he just became a tattletale. He's like, Mama, she's over here. I'm like, shut up, Prometheus, damn. Freaking snitch, like, come on now. But yeah, they're pretty terrifying. I would say Zeus can be pretty terrifying, and Napoleon can be pretty terrifying with their unique abilities, but look at Prometheus. Prometheus can literally become this giant sun several times the size of the Thousand Sunny, and the Thousand Sunny is a pretty decently sized ship. Several times the Sunny, and just launch fireballs. And Prometheus can also fuse with Big Mom's hair to create like a fire hair effect flowing off of her. So when Big Mom goes full power, when she wants her damn cake, rides on top of Zeus, raining down lightning, Prometheus merges with her hair, so flaming hair lights on fire anything she lands on, and then takes Napoleon with a giant longsword, like, ma! When this is coming at you, you're dead, essentially. I mean, the Straw Hats survive, but you're not the Straw Hats, I'm not the Straw Hats. Barry might be able to survive, but beyond that, you're screwed, essentially, right? Especially if you have wedding cake. Something else that I wanted to mention here, two things actually, one's more of just something I forgot to bring up. So last chapter when Big Mom was wandering through the brothel, she was using her soul powers to animate all of the random things just lying around, like some old sandals and a Japanese lantern, creating them into homies, okay? One thing that she did turn into a homie was an old umbrella, and I forgot to mention this when I did the yokai video last year where I compared all the different kinds of yokai creatures in Wano to like actual yokai in Japanese myth, and I forgot to bring up that there's actually is a yokai that's an animated umbrella, specifically an old animated Japanese style umbrella called Kasa Obake, and it looks exactly like how Oda drew it, like it's an umbrella with like a single eye. So I just wanted to bring that up just kind of like as an interesting footnote. Something else though, Big Mom did not have other souls around her in that one particular instance. So does that mean those homies that she created, like the sandal and the lantern and the umbrella, those are all her homies, like her soul that she's fragmenting? I guess they would be, because there was no one else in the brothel for her to, like, rip the soul out of and give them to. Maybe she has them stored on her at all times, like she has some stored up souls that she could just have a little soul vial she could just unplug and just throw the soul in. Maybe, but that was weird. Like, she was just animating them as she was walking, as she was, like, kind of like horror movie villains stalking Nami, Shinobu, and Karen and Zeus. So I guess we'll see how that goes there. But yeah, they were mostly, I think, just there to give more eyes and ears on everything so they could, like, spot them and, you know, Big Mom knows where they're at. But interesting thing I just wanted to bring up. And yeah, I mean, like, Big Mom's had this power for 60-something years now, so it would make sense. Like, she doesn't seem to be, like, super intelligent, but she seems to be using this fruit in a pretty effective way, you know, splitting her soul to, so you have to fight against, she's never alone. You always have to fight against, like, 4-on-1, as in the case with Brooke. Brooke went up against Big Mom 3-on-1, so pretty damn good, because Big Mom didn't really participate in that fight too much, and it was mostly just Prometheus and Zeus, and, well, I guess Napoleon didn't really do much either. So that was pretty much just Brooke versus Zeus and Prometheus, but still, lasted a pretty good time. Also, Brooke, he wasn't able to, like, knock the souls out of Prometheus, like, you know, like, knock them out the same way he did with the chess soldiers, but using his soul powers, his Yomi Yomi no Mi, he was able to injure Prometheus. He was able to cut Prometheus, and later on you see Prometheus putting a band-aid on him, so he's not able, he's an animated ball of fire, but if he gets injured in that way, like by someone that uses soul energy, the power of the underworld, as Brooke calls it, it's a regular injury, so he can't just, you know, just close up the wound with fire. You know, he actually has to put a band-aid on it and wait for it to heal normally, okay? So there are ways to harm them, and we even see later on Brooke sliced freaking Zeus right in half. Zeus did not die, just regressed into the tiny little cloud with the little baseball cap on. But yeah, they are able to be injured, but normal conventional weapons would not, you know, hurt them. You know, you like Frankie would not be able to just take a missile or something and launch it and, like, destroy Zeus or Prometheus. Napoleon is different because, like, Zeus and Prometheus are like these intangible, like Zeus is just an animated cloud. Prometheus is just flames. So if you launch a missile into flames, it's just going to probably pass right through the flames. Napoleon, though, is a physical object, a sword and a hat. So I'm curious how that would work if you just, like, bombarded the shit out of this hat and just attacked it, or just try to blow it up with a missile or something, like, or Frankie used, like, radical beam and, like, knock the hat off of Big Mom's head. Would that destroy Napoleon for good? And, you know, until Big Mom would find another fragment of, like, the soul would return to her body, like, how exactly would that work with Napoleon? But otherwise, the only real way you're going to be able to injure them is with specialized soul attacks, so essentially only Brooke and the Straw Hats could really harm them, or Nami, that has techniques that could affect the weather. Oh, water, also. Yeah, that's a big one. I forgot to mention that. You know, oh, man, how could you possibly defeat a giant ball of fire? Aka Inu punches it in the heart! Okay, I kid, but that would probably work. That would honestly probably work. I want to see that now. I want to see Akainu arriving and just like, all right, Big Mom, I'm bringing you in. It's like, Prometheus, attack him! And then he's like, Akainu's, that's not gonna work. Akainu just makes a giant ball of lava and just throws it right at friggin' Prometheus. Going by Ace logic, I guess that would work, right? But no, water. So Jinbei, Fishman, jumps into the water and just sprinkles it on top of Prometheus, and just like the sprinkles were enough to like hurt him, because it's like, ah, no, ow, that hurts. Felt like acid on his skin, probably. Okay, so yeah, that's how you do it. Zeus being weak to like other like thunder or like magnetically charged techniques naturally. Prometheus being weak to water and probably other things like a fire extinguisher, anything that would quell fire. And then Napoleon, I guess, being weak to anything that could destroy a hat and a sword. So there you go, their natural weaknesses there. I want to see Nami keep Zeus, so we're going to see where this goes. We even saw Zeus, like, attack Big Mom. You'd think if it was, like, perfect control, Zeus would not be able to do that. You know, Nami would not be able to manipulate Zeus into attacking Big Mom if it was, like, that level of, like, oh, you cannot harm me, I am the one that created you, so to speak. So it's definitely more agency than other things there, right? But that still might seal Zeus's fate. And I guess we'll see throughout this, but I hope it doesn't. I hope Zeus stays around for a while. Big Mom can keep Prometheus. Big Mom can keep Napoleon. She might even be able to create another Zeus. She could just take another fragment of her soul and create another Zeus. This one that obeys her, right? However, you'd think keep fragmenting her soul up, that would weaken her inherently, and her homies are always around her, so it's not that big of a deal. That's why she's so dead set on getting Zeus back. It's part of her soul. But what if she was able to absorb Zeus back into herself, and Napoleon, and Prometheus? Like let's say, near the end of this arc, Big Mom does end up getting beaten down, and she's, like, kind of injured. And we're like, okay, we actually managed to win. And then Big Mom's like, Mama, you think you've won? And it's kind of the same thing that Moria did with Shadow's Asgard. Shadow's Asgard! Where he just draws in all the shadows. Big Mom just sucks in all of the souls like Napoleon. Just, oh, okay, I'm going back in. Zeus is like, oh no! And then Prometheus is like, oh! And they all just get drawn back into Big Mom. And then she just, like, gets back up, and she's just, like, just radiating enough power to, like, knock you out immediately. Maybe her hair does turn into fire, and she can control lightning from her fingertips like the freaking Emperor. Like, mama! You know? And she can, like, extend a sword at her, like she's, like, Wolverine now. Like, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out, but okay, even beyond all that stuff I just said, like, okay, maybe she doesn't have Sith lightning, or she doesn't have fire hair, or she's not the T-1000, or she's not Wolverine, but without all that, just getting her soul fragments back into her actual physical body, so it's 100% back to her, that would, you'd think, give her a big power boost, right? I mean, at least that much, okay? So we'll see where that goes, but she probably doesn't want to do that because Prometheus and Zeus and Napoleon, they give her so many battle options and tactics. She can fly on them, she can merge with them, she can use the sword, so she probably doesn't want to do that unless it's like a serious injury where it's like, well, how about this? Okay, let's say Big Mom doesn't get defeated. Let's not go down that path, because that's pretty hard to do. But let's say Prometheus and Napoleon and Zeus get injured to the point where they're on the ground all beaten up and they're no good anymore. They can't fight anymore. That's like, oh, you've been defeated, but don't worry, I'll incorporate you back into myself. And then she slurps them like ramen noodles and they go back into it. Maybe something like that would be more likely. So yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But that's what's up with Big Mom's homies. Thanks for watching, everybody. Comment below on what you think about Zeus staying around with Nami and the Straw Hats. What's up with the Napoleon and the sword thing, and how you would actually, like, destroy these homies. And if there's even destroying them is even... You might be able to destroy their, like, physical vessel, but then they might just go back into Big Mom and make everything worse, right? Well, anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking, signing out.